Hello folks and welcome to the show today with myself, Shane Stapleton, as ever, joined by Michael Verney. Michael, a huge amount of stuff happened over the weekend, but I suppose the main thing, which is a huge relief, is Offaly are out of the hurling championship.
I was going to tweet it yesterday, but I had no interest in the phone happened after. Offaly beaten by 9, Tipperary beaten by Cork by 17, was it?
Look, I don't know. Tip didn't do great, that's all I know.
But I tell you what, Shane, we get into it a bit more. I thought that could be 20 points kind of difference on Saturday, with celebrations and different things, and the week turnover between games. So from an Offaly perspective, was absolutely delighted with that now.
Yeah, and I suppose, like, what were the positives that you take out of that performance? And just might as well have a little chat about the fact that maybe the likes of Adam Scrutiny went on holiday, but you can kind of understand given the huge commitments he's had, and I'm sure he was a bit torn himself.
Yeah, I think him and Colin Spain both had a holiday booked. I think before they were both involved in the senior panel, from what Johnny Kelly was saying after, and they tried to change accommodation and things like that. Listen, I don't really have a big issue with it at all, to be honest, just because of the breadth of games that those lads have played across secondary school, third level college, club, county, 20s, seniors, various grades over the last while. I don't have any great issue with it at all, to be honest with you. And it's more of a long game with those lads. And I didn't listen. It was obviously something that they couldn't turn around or whatever. So probably I'm sure they were disappointed not to feature in the game, because I'm sure knowing the two of them, like I from my perspective, I would say, oh, it's nearly a blessing in disguise that Adam Sweeney didn't have to go up against Sean O'Donoghue or whatever. But I'm sure he wasn't thinking like that, because he loves every challenge, and Spain the same. But listen, from their long-term development, I don't think it's a bad thing. Now, it's probably another small little death knell towards the preliminary All-Ireland quarterfinals, though, if you get me, because that wouldn't happen in another scenario. Like, they were never going to miss the McDonagh final, shall we say. But that shows you that shows probably where Offaly's goals were for the year. Their goals for the year were to perform well in the league and win the McDonagh, and like with the best will in the world. And it was a great occasion in Tullamore on Saturday night by all accounts. But like, those fixtures, in my opinion, really, really shouldn't be happening at this stage.
Yeah, and you look at how quickly the Football Review Committee is working at the moment in terms of bringing stuff in for next year. Let's get that urgency on the hurling side, and let's everyone be realistic about it.
The only thing about that, Shano, is that it went to vote at Congress last year, and that's the problem. I don't know when would that go to vote again, and there's an appetite amongst the good few, but amongst probably Westmeath, Carlow, and a few more. Like, it is great benefit for, like, from an Offaly point of view, the way the result worked out, that's a great benefit going into next year. But that's realistically a total outlier, along with the Laois result in 2019. The average loss for the runners up was 22 points up until the weekend, and it's still going to be 18-19 for the winners. Laois won by 2, obviously. The average loss for the winners has been 11, and that was reduced ever so slightly to 9 the other day. So the average is probably about 10. But they are not the competitive fixtures that we want at that stage in the championship. Let's be realistic.
And we probably know to some degree that the sides that are fancy to win those games, the third place provincial sides, they're coming in a little bit half-cocked. You know, there is certainly a feeling of that. And and I mean that respectfully, because you still have to look at what, like, I was watching some of that Laois match, and I thought physically they're quite strong. They're getting stuck in. Fair enough. Maybe they're not able to get away from Wexford, and Wexford pulled away on the scoreline at different times during the game. And the same with E as well. And I look at, and with the best will in the world as well, even when Carlow drew with Kilkenny earlier this year, who was it a bigger game for? Who was probably minding a couple of players and maybe not starting their absolute fullest 15? I'm not trying to take that away from Carlow, but let's not act like Kilkenny were pumped up the same way they'd be for an All-Ireland final.
Yeah, it was a different Kilkenny that showed up for the Leinster final compared to the Kilkenny team that showed up for that Carlow game. That's not taking anything away from the result. I see Esther Rice says every team deserves a chance. To me, Offaly's chance is in next year's Leinster Championship. That's my opinion on it. Because the last thing we want is big beatings in games. Offaly have earned a chance to play in the Leinster Championship next year. and let's see how we fare in that. And that will, you know what I mean? Like if I just say if Offaly get, you know, a win and a draw next year, great. But that would be brilliant. Don't get me wrong. But that doesn't mean they should be in the last 8 of, you know what I mean? Like that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's my opinion on it. I think when the McDonagh Cup finishes, that's every team's goal for the year is to try and win the McDonagh. One will, the other 5 won't. But that's their season over. Particularly anyway for the winners. The losers getting a route through is madness in my view.
Yeah, Joseph Nash says, I think Offaly were not blown away by Cork and in fact played well. It means Offaly look good for 2025. Antrim could be under huge pressure depending on if Offaly game is at home or away. So just to talk a bit more about Laois against Wexford, we're joined by Barry McAvoy of Laois today. Barry, thanks very much for coming on the show. And I suppose the game finished up 32 points to 20. So by no matter means was it complete one-way traffic. And, you know, midway through the first half, it was 6 points to 5. Wexford pulled away a nice bit, and I suppose you were playing catch-up from then on. But what was your read on the game?
As I heard Michael saying there, it's like the losers coming from the John McDonagh into the All-Ireland preliminary quarter-finals. It's hard to G themselves back up and come back out and play against top-quality opposition like that against Wexford. But at least they held their own for long periods and could have took an early lead through end roll, and he had a penalty saved by Mark Fanning. That would have been a huge boost early on, and even after the miss, like to their credit, Laois went on and scored, I think 5 of the next 8 scores, possibly 5 of the next 9 scores. So they rallied well early on, but like I said, Wexford hit their stride in the first half, hit 7 points in a row. It was like Conor McDonald, like Laois backs did very well, like Ryan Mullaney, Ian Shanahan were strong, but McDonald and Leach in were just scoring points from 60, 70 metres out on the sideline. Scores that I suppose Laois wouldn't generally be used to conceding really against some of the lower teams in John McDonagh. You think you'd have your job done, but then likes of Conor McDonald is just a different class to what we've experienced so far this year, and you have to be really on your game to keep them out.
Yeah, there was times, Barry, when I was looking at Laois hunting in packs, and they were doing it very, very well, turning Wexford the wrong way and everything, and then Wexford 2 or 3 passes to just, I suppose, completely switch play to the other side of the field. And then once they successfully do that, then all of a sudden you're back to mano a mano at the other side of the pitch, delivering a good ball. And what are you going to do against Chin, McDonald, Byrne, Rory O'Connor, who probably wasn't even at his best, but it just felt like once they rode the tackle initially, they were able to sort of pick you off then a bit.
Yeah, like there was space out the field then for likes of Conor Hearn, Damien Rex, Simon Donoghue to pick off their scores from 70, 80 metres out. And like that, it was a crossfield pass and their diagonal balls were brilliant up into likes of Keenan, Byrne, Conor McDonald. And Rory O'Connor was kept fairly quiet. Like he scored 1 point in the second half. That was it. The Laois backs, like I said, hunted in packs. And then, but it did get to the stage where you could just see the Laois players were out on their feet. And it was Aidan Corby. He was my man the match now. It was, I think in the 66, 67th minute, there was a ball 5 yards ahead of him. And you could see him trying to sprint, but his legs weren't working. He was getting there. And that kind of goes to show the tough few weeks they're after having. Obviously, it was a heartbreaking loss last week. Trying to turn around and then face up against, like I say, Lee Chin, Conor McDonald, even Carl Dunbar came in for the second half. That Keen Byrne was very impressive, actually. He was under 20, I believe, this year. We would have faced him down in Wexford Park back in about April. He was brilliant that day, but he was top quality. He got 3 points in play. And so even if the kind of main stars weren't firing, he was there to score 3 points, but the Wexford forwards were all brilliant. The one bonus was that they kept them out for a goal, and Roland pulled off a couple of brilliant saves. Mullaney and Ian Shannon pulled off some good hooks at the back, hooks and blocks even. Paul Delaney was kind of clearing and the drops, but like Wexford pushed hard for goals in the second half, but the Laois back stood strong, and it's kind of been a feature of Laois so far this year, other than the John McDonagh final when the goals kind of cost them in the end. They had only conceded 3 goals in the John McDonagh final or in the John McDonagh campaign up to that game. So I suppose that's one big bonus they can take away from the game on Saturday, is that they kept them out for goals and didn't concede any, and didn't let Wexford run the score up. They only got 32 points, but didn't come away disgraced as such.
Yeah, Michael.
Heartening, Barry, away to finish the season for Laois. They didn't get what they wanted, obviously, within the McDonagh, but the wheels could have come off. Like, I know when Offaly, the wheels totally came off last year when we played Tip, and it was an awful way to finish the year. Like, I suppose it's kind of really mixed emotions in a way. Been competitive enough against Wexford, but face it into next year, kind of back where you started again. It's like been teased almost with something. Here's what you could have, but you're going back to the McDonagh again next year.
Yeah, and like hopefully we can do the same as Offaly did this year and regroup and come back stronger for the following year. Like it was great from Offaly this year to overcome the first round loss even to Laois, and then like they've improved massively from there. They just went from strength to strength, and that's what Laois should be trying to do next year, I suppose. Try and keep that core group of players that have been involved over the last few years. There's kind of rumours of retirements from some of the bigger names going around, but they've been rumoured for the last 2 or 3 years, so wouldn't be surprised if we saw pretty much the same panel going into next year with a few additions maybe from the under-20s. You get the little teaser against Wexford and seeing what you could be playing next year, but then unfortunately it's going to be back into the Joe McDonagh, and like Westmeath aren't going to be as bad as they were this year. They're going to come back stronger. Carlow obviously are back into the mix now, so it's never easy to come out of Joe McDonagh Cup. It's, as we saw it last year, like we lost off in the first game and never recovered from there. Drew with Carlow and just didn't make a final whatsoever. So like at least we're seeing progression. Like last year was a poor year. We relegated from Division 1, didn't make the Joe Mac final. This year we have a league, say Division 2 league title under our belts after a huge win over Carlow and the final of that, beat them by 15, 16 points, having lost them earlier on the league, and then to go from there into the Joe McDonagh final, overcome Offaly in the first round with obviously it was 5 points in it later on, got the 2 goals.
A robbery.
Yeah, well, we'll take it as they come.
And Barry, like, so the narrative going into that Joe McDonagh final was that Offaly have this young team and they're just about to start coming and obviously win this, get into Leinster Championship, and that's them on that trajectory to kick on and be really competitive there. Whereas it was the talk that Laois, right, they've a lot of experienced players, they might outman, we'll say, Offaly in that final, but ultimately year on the downturn there and Laois a small bit. Would you kind of agree with that, or do you see like hope for the future in terms of like players coming? I would have seen the likes of James Duggan in UCD up here. But what would you say in terms of that narrative?
I wouldn't agree with it whatsoever. I think the crop of under 20 we currently have is one of the strongest crops we've had in a long time. But they put on some decent performances. They weren't able to get kind of a big win, but they got the draw down in Wexford. That was a huge result. And then obviously didn't progress too far. It came up against Offaly then in Tullamore. I presume Michael was at that game anyway, and Offaly
just the start, wasn't it? Really, yeah.
Blew us away early on, couldn't keep up. But like that kind of goes to show the class that Offaly have at that age group. Like it's one of, in my opinion, one of our better age groups in Laois, or one of the best under 20 groups we've had in a while. But still, we couldn't live with Offaly. But overall, like the likes of Ger Quinlan, Tom Cuddy's been very, very impressive. Cody Comfort, they're just 3 under 20s who've been involved this year, and a huge addition back has been David Dooley. He's only 20, 21. I think he's only 1 year out of 20. So he's a massive kind of addition back to the panel in his early 20s. And you have likes of Ian Shanahan, Podge Delaney, Dee Conway, even Milani, they're all still in their early to kind of mid 20s-ish. So we're not the old dogs just yet. There's a few, I suppose, kind of 30 plus that might be on the way out over the next couple of years or next year even, but there's still plenty of hope for the future. I would be confident going to Joe McDonagh next year.
And from what you saw of Wexford at the weekend, how do you see them getting on against Clare this weekend? Like, we definitely didn't see the best of Clare against Limerick in the Munster final, but there's no guarantee we'll see it this weekend either.
No, definitely not. And I just think for Clare, like they've after having 3 years now, 4 in a row even, losing Munster finals, it's hard to come back in then and take on Wexford. And like watching Wexford Saturday, I know like Laois aren't All-Ireland opposition or All-Ireland quality opposition. Wexford's ability to pick off a score is very, very good, and Clare will have to be on their game. And I suppose even last year was disappointing for Clare over or losing to Kilkenny in the semi-final. So they're not like they put on good performances at times, but they're not free flowing. And Wexford definitely could catch them on the hop, because even the Wexford crowd, there was a monstrous crowd came to Portlaoise from Wexford on Saturday, and they were very boisterous, very loud, all good humour obviously. Like, but if they get going in Dublin Thurles, is it on next
weekend? They won't be there, Barry, unfortunately. They'll be no one from Wexford at it by the looks of things.
The sale is on, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's we'll come back.
Yeah, we'll come back to that.
Yeah, I'm sure they still turn out in their thousands. And
well, look, while we have you here, something worth asking you about then is the Tailteann Cup semi-final. So I'm not sure if you got to see the Laois victory over Kildare at the weekend, and Glen Ryan has stepped down on the back of it. But were you expecting Laois to go ahead and win that game at O'Connor Park? And great to be in a Tailteann Cup semi-final, even if it is second tier.
No, I'll have to be honest. I have to preface this by saying I'm very much a hurling Laois, but yeah, no, I wasn't expecting. Well, I wasn't expecting to beat Kildare, but I would have obviously, as even said, the bookmakers would have heavily favoured Kildare. But it's been a pretty good year for the footballers. They've had a few maybe questionable results. Obviously, New York, it was nearly a big slip last week, but to recover from that and come in and beat Kildare then in a quarter final in Tullamore was very, very good. And that's the second year in a row now, reached Tailteann Cup final. Going to take on Antrim, you had some confidence of them going one better than last year and heading into the final. Obviously, last year we came up against Down in the semi final and came out on the wrong side of that one quite heavily. But you'd have confidence, and Justin McNulty does appear to be breathing kind of new life into Laois football, and he's plenty of positivity around the camp from what I can gather anyway. And I would be fairly confident heading into Croke Park next week to see them overcome an Antrim.
And then going on to next year, like Willie Maher's done 2 years now at this stage. Is the move good? Is it positive for the future, despite coming up short there, obviously at the weekend, but more importantly in the Joe McDonagh final?
Yeah, well, like I said earlier on, last year was a poor year by anyone's standards, getting relegated from the league and losing the Joe Mac final. But there's been clearly an upward trajectory into this year. That's one bonus I suppose you could get. You've seen that.
Verney's getting slated.
Yeah, sorry, I couldn't help but laugh when I saw that now, to be honest with you. There's static electricity all around me at the minute.
Yeah, Willie, it's hard to know. Like, I asked him after the game on Saturday, and he just said that himself that he doesn't know. He'd have to go back and speak to the county board, his employers. His wife was the most important one, I think. And it's like there has been upward trajectory improvement. Obviously, winning the National League and getting to the final, and most important, I think, is the breeding in the younger players, like the likes of Tom Cuddy, Jar Quinlan, David Dooley. Like, there's kind of marked improvement there of bedding in the players, and he can take that panel on now. I suppose he's brought them through the last year or so. So he'll be able to bring them through to next year, and I believe there was an option there when he did sign 2 years ago for a third year. So it'll be interesting to see if they do activate it or if sides come and take it on for next year.
The last thing he needs is another change, though, realistically. He's worked with them for 2 years. First year wasn't great by all accounts. It was, there were ups and downs. He remember even in a couple of league games where he took heavy beatings. But, you'd imagine he'd be doing everything possible to stay on for a third year and possibly more. And I'd imagine he'd be doing the same to try and keep him as well. Because you're at a nice point now, and it seems maybe you could kick on to the next level next year.
Yeah, like a bit of stability is key, and we've had a lot of chopping and changing over the last few years. And obviously, since kind of Eddie Brennan left, it's been tough going. But yeah, like going into a third year with the same manager is ideal, I suppose, because he knows what he has now. Last year, he was quite late coming to the setup last year, or say come into the 2023 campaign. It was late 2022, I think, when he actually joined. So he wasn't fully sure what he had at his disposal last year, as far as I'm concerned. This year, it's been a lot more settled. He's had, we'd say 1 to 9 has been pretty much locked in for all the big games. The forwards is still kind of anyone's guess of who's going to be starting each week. But going into year 3, he'll know exactly what he has, who he has, and he'd be fancying himself to go one better, I suppose, go from the final, go on and win it. The younger lads are going to be that bit better. Like Tom Cuddy and Jar Quinlan have been two of the standout players. They're under 20 again next year, actually. So they're only going to come on more, and I think Willie be keen to stick around with the panel, given that there is plenty of scope to bring them on over the next couple of years even.
Okay, well look, Barry, really appreciate you joining us, and hopefully we'll get you on sometime soon enough.
Thanks very much, lads.
Cheers, Barry. Good man.
Okay,
just on that channel, something we should have said, Liam Ryan missed last Saturday night for Wexford, and by all accounts he's going to be out again for this weekend. And it's just, I don't know, just looking back at that Galway game, and it's sometimes you just need a few elder statesmen in particular to bring the fire. And I remember he made a couple of statements and was in lads' faces, and I just think they probably need that type of a player against Clare, and it doesn't look like they're going to have him. So that will be that's going to be a big loss for them. Yeah. I think I got that before. We got that before.
I'm going to remove myself.
Yeah, that's the Mar from Home Alone. Yeah, I can assure all viewers that there's no static electricity in the background. It's just, I don't know if you call it a bad hair day or a good hair day. I'm not sure.
Yeah, Travis Wheeler wants to know what conditioner you use. None, I'd imagine.
I wouldn't want to give away that secret now.
Yeah. So just in terms of the Cork players at the weekend, geez, I have to say Shane Barrett is continuing just his brilliant form. He 3 points scored in jig time, got his goal then also in the first half, finished with 1-4. I thought he was exceptional. Patrick Horgan added another 110, so 1-1 of that was from play. Brian Hayes, brilliant goal early on. And I think that kind of typified the whole idea that if Cork really wanted to press it home, they probably did have another gear. But you still have to give your lads lots of credit.
Yeah, I wouldn't have been overly impressed, with the attitude that Cork brought to it, to be honest with you. And I know if that was another team, if that was Limerick and Limerick won by 9, I'd be like, no, it's Limerick doing what Limerick do. They don't tend to, absolutely annihilate kind of what would be viewed as inferior opposition. But Cork need to keep the foot on the throttle. Like, Cork have a fair whack of momentum in their last maybe 3 performances, definitely the last 2 anyway, before the weekend. And you're still not 100% sure what Cork you're going to get in a given day. That's
They're
why
experimenting though, aren't they? Like, I mean, they threw Kieran Joyce into midfield. Lahan had his first appearance in a long time. He was in wing forward. So it's not like they put out the team that they finished the Munster Championship with.
Yeah, no, fair point too. But I just, I just think they've been going. They've obviously been off a month too, but they've been going very well until this point. I don't think Pat would have been blown away by their attitude, and he sounded like that after. And he basically said, he didn't say these exact words, or paraphrasing. He basically said he has a stick to beat them with for the week. I think he said he was going to go after them for the next week. And
Can he though, when you've got the Dublin game coming so soon?
No, it's not even that. It's more go after them mentally, I'd say, and the attitude that they're going to bring to the table. Yeah, something like that. But it's just for a team that there are still doubts about their mental capacity, shall we say, and even conceding big scores, like just Offaly could have had 5-22 very easily. And if Offaly are creating those type of chances which they didn't convert, unfortunately, I'm not saying Dublin are going to do it this weekend, but Limerick or Kilkenny or potentially Clare, if they meet them at some stage in the next while, they will kind of take those chances. They will go for the throw. Cork are still leaving a lot of opportunities behind them, shall we say, at their defensive end.
Yeah, because it was 738 you conceded last year. This was 425 here. Still a big score, but much better. Now, I think John Keenan is trying to log in here. It doesn't seem to be working at the moment. John, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
We can hear you for sure. We just can't see you.
We can hear you. We can't see you. I'd say turn on your camera. They always say about the man in black, the referee, all we can see is black here at the minute, a black screen. But you'll come up in a minute. You'll come up in a minute, no doubt.
Well, we'll chat away for the moment, John, and hopefully your picture will appear. But Michael, just in terms of Wexford looking to get the game moved back from Saturday to Sunday, because they're due to host the All-Ireland Féile na Gael National Hurling Series next Saturday. And I believe that they had contacted Croke Park after coming third in the provincial championship. Now the games aren't going to be moved. The Tailteann Cup is going to be on the Sunday. The hurling is going to remain on the Saturday. So this is going to severely affect the amount of people who go to one or the other here.
Oh, 100%. I'd say, to be honest with you, the amount of people volunteer-wise that are going to be tied up in the Féile na Gael will be absolutely huge, because every club will be hosting at least one other club from around the country, or possibly 2 or 3. Like, I know Burr down in halfway house Bunclody all weekend or whatever. So, like, the amount of bodies that's required to run a Féile successfully. We had it in Offaly around, I think it was around 08. Was it 08 or I'm actually not sure. It was, our pitch was been redeveloped at the time. It actually could have been 2012. And it's all hands on deck. Like, it really, really is all hands on deck. I think they submitted something to Central Council maybe a month ago when they knew there was going to be a fixture crossover, because they obviously, they want people there to make sure the Féile runs smoothly, but they want to bring their kids, and all the supporters want to go to the game, and they're going to be denied that opportunity now, because, like, I think there is a relatively simple solution. The games are down for, like, not like fully fixed or anything yet, but down for in around half 1 or in around half 3. And really the solution would be for the game to remain on a Saturday, but be played at maybe 7, half 7 in somewhere like Nolan Park. But by all accounts, that's off the table, because the URC final is being broadcast live on RTE, and almost like
it's on news now. It's been flipped to news now.
Okay, it's been flipped in. Okay, that has. So then there's the opportunity for that still to happen then. There's the opportunity for the game to be on in the evening time. And that would be a solution of sorts. At least it would at least allow Wexford people to attend the game, because at the minute, if they go at the same time as had been moved, they won't be able to attend the game, and that'd just be a disaster for all concerned.
Yeah. Okay, John. Look, we don't seem to have picture, but sure.
I am still here, but I can't get this camera working for some reason.
Yeah. You don't have another device that you could try it on. If not, we'll plow ahead.
Just give me 2 seconds there. I'm gonna know.
Okay.
There's an absolutely brilliant comment in here from Pao. Okay, John picking up where he left off. Never noticed him while he was refereeing and can't see him now. Goat emoji. Jeez, John or Pao. Okay, sorry, I thought it was John. Okay, Pao. Okay is on the ball today, because you never really noticed John, and that was the great thing about him. He just let it flow.
So, but just back to this whole Wexford situation, surely this should have been ironed out a long time ago, and also let the football counties know that, the All-Ireland hurling quarterfinals are prime time. The Tailteann Cup semi-finals, it's a very important competition, but it's not prime time. That should be on the Saturday. The hurling should be on the Sunday. No more debate about it. And that's it. And it's nothing to do with saying one code is better than the other or anything like that. But that's like relegating the All-Ireland football semi-finals to Saturday and putting the Joe McDonagh Cup quarterfinal or semi-finals on the Sunday. It just makes no sense.
Yeah, no, Shane, I'd agree with you there. This isn't hurling versus football. This is which games are of more importance, and top tier hurling quarterfinal games, let's call it a spade, are more important than the Tailteann Cup. You have to. I'm sure, and when Wexford sent in their request or possible request that this might happen, I think all counties should have been notified of it. And I wouldn't see that big of a deal with the flip, to be honest with you. If it was flipped, fixtures are always there to be flipped. I think the semi-final or the quarter-final hurling fixtures would have just been said this weekend, Saturday or Sunday. Do you know what I mean? So you're not 100% sure what day it's going to be. And I know they're trying to put the Tailteann Cup games front and centre on the Sunday to, I suppose, help with the promotion of it and make sure that it probably does help with player buy-in, to be honest with you. If you know you're going to be broadcast, if you get to a semi-final, you're going to be playing in Croke Park, games are going to be broadcast live on terrestrial television. But it does go against the ethos of the GA for a county to be totally immersed in something as brilliant as the Féile, and for them to be basically deterred, or just it might be downright impossible for them to actually go and support their county, which would be totally wrong.
Yeah, well, look, John, we seem to be having no success at all with the picture. But as a commenter said just a little while ago, Pao said, John picking up where he left off. Never noticed him while he was refereeing and can't see him now. So you're getting plenty of positive comments anyway, John.
We've lost sound now as well. See, you didn't see John, or you didn't hear him either.
Yeah, okay.
hopefully he'll come back in a minute. But yeah, it is a bit of an own goal this weekend, unless, as you say, if the game potentially is fixed for evening time, then it will work somehow. Games will probably be finished at 4 or 5 o'clock, Féile games, and they will at least have the chance to attend the games.
Yeah. Do you see any reason to doubt Cork's, I suppose, chances going forward now after what you saw against Offaly?
Just a small bit, yeah, because as I said to you, I'm still a doubting Thomas about Cork until they actually go and do it. And I just think, attitude-wise, I would have expected them to arrive with a better attitude than they did in O'Connor Park the other day. Even I wasn't at the game; I was watching it on GA Go, but by all accounts, I had heard that Kieran Burke fairly let Alan Connolly know he was there before the ball was thrown in, and Connolly was almost a bit taken aback, and Connolly was taken off after 44 minutes scoreless, a guy who'd scored a hat-trick against the same opposition in Tullamore earlier on in the year. So that would suggest maybe that mentally some of the Cork players weren't exactly where they needed to be.
Yeah, okay. John, can you hear us?
I can hear you, yeah. Can you hear me?
We can hear you loud and clear. Look, we'll forget about the picture anyway.
A lot of people keep saying that to me anyway.
How are things with you? How have you enjoyed this GA season?
Obviously, I've got to a few games this year. I'd rather still be refereeing them and involved in them, but I've got to see a few. I went down to Cork for the for the Limerick Cork game, and I actually got to the Munster final last week. So two decent games to get to see this year.
Can I just ask you? You said you're kind of missing out, John. The rule is there that referees, inter-county referees, can't go on beyond the age of 50. do you still think you would have the physical capacity to referee inter-county games for the next couple of years?
I would 100%. Like, obviously, I knew that rule was coming up for this year, and I'd be finished. So I probably didn't put in as much work during the winter as I normally would. But I've had no issue over the last 12 or 13 years with the fitness for the following year. So I think I could have kept going, and obviously not to stay on for too long, but another couple of years, especially after doing last year's All-Ireland, it would have been nice to come back and have another year at this year, So. Yeah.
As Rory Hickey said to me, John, you can't tell TJ Reid he has to retire at 37 or 38 or whatever age. Why should you be able to tell a referee when he has to retire?
Yeah, no, I understand because it helped me a lot. It helped me back probably 7 or 8 years ago when say Barry Kelly, Brian Gavin, and those lads were moved on. Because there was a good few was coming up along behind there, and it gave us the opportunity to fill into their shoes and give us the chance to do games. So I do understand why I come in, but it's still in my own head. I'd still like to be there, So.
But even that, John, we don't have the number of top quality referees is dwindling. And I'm not blowing smoke up here or whatever, but why should we send one of the best referees out the gap when he's still willing and able to referee, if you get me? It's particularly amid a refereeing crisis at the minute, particularly numbers wise.
Yeah. Well, I don't think we're that bad at the minute. We have good up and coming referees. There is good referees out there still, and we've Sean Stack is there, Kevin Jordan, Chris Mooney. Those lads are coming up along again, so they should get their chances now. Would I say the likes himself and Pod gone, But I say I'd still love to be involved, and I'd still keep in touch with the lads, we soldier together there for a good few years, so I'd still be in touch with them, So, but it's up to everyone now to take their own chance and see how they get on as well. But as you say, yeah, missing it terribly, especially this time of the year,
Is your experience been tapped into at all, John? On match day or anything like that, or do you have any role, or are you doing any assessing or anything like that, referee wise?
No, not at the minute now. I was Donald Smith in Croke Park is the national referees manager, and I had a chat with Donald towards the end of last year, and he did say to me, and I think Pod as well, that he wouldn't, he'd just let us have a year out, and he might get us back involved next year. And I wouldn't mind getting back involved now. The assessing end of things, probably not, because that means you're going around every week to look at a different referee and assess a different referee.
Yeah, John, you can't see me smiling now, but I'd say if you were an assessor, you'd be leaving your pen at home.
I can see you smiling there. I can see you smiling. But no, there is another role there, and they brought it in a few years ago. It's a mentoring role. So you'd be given an up and coming referee, and you would go to his game. So any game that he was doing, you would travel to the game and keep an eye on him and keep in touch with him and just pass on any advice or helpful tips that, so that is something that I would see myself doing, and I'd like to do. I think it's going down along.
What's the most difficult rule to enforce in GAA, in hurling, or what do you have the most frustration around?
Well, sure. I think it's the elephant in the room at the minute is the hand pass. It's one there. They're doing it so fast at the minute, and it's a hard one to get right. But you try your best to judge it as you see it on the day. Is there a way of changing that? I think there was a couple of motions brought up there. Do you hand pass it off to hurley? Do you change hands to hand pass it? It's a hard one to get right at the minute. How you would change that you're going to have 100% legal hand passes. I still referee club stuff. You are going to miss one or two of them, but at the top level, the passes are being offloaded so fast. It is hard to catch them all. So.
Okay, John. So John S says here, if John is on a laptop, is the cover over his camera flicked across?
There we go.
Was that it, John?
How simple is that? How simple is that?
If you can twist it a little bit now, so the light is hitting your face rather than behind you, you'd be less blacked out.
Just hold on here now.
Even now, if you can pirouette for us there, like any good referee would do.
He's on camera, but he's still there. He is now.
Just bear with me 1 minute.
Yeah, sure. We'll stay chatting away. I see the Wicklow top there on and everything. Yeah, Michael, just in terms of we'll just give John a second there. I couldn't think of a question off the top of my head.
That's better, yeah.
Yeah, much better, John. So yeah, just again, so that the hand pass is one. Can I tell you about one that I find a little bit frustrating at the moment? And I think in Gaelic football, they're actually going to try and double down on this with some of the trials. But if I'm running through and Verney sort of half tugs at me, and then you'll put up the hand for advantage, and I'll stay running on, and I'll get totally free again, unimpeded, and I'll have space to take a shot, and I'll hit it wide, and then it'll be a free shot or a free hit, as they say in rugby, and you go back and you get a free again. I'm like, well, look, it's advantage rule, and I've gotten back to the point of being totally advantaged. Why are we then going back again? I think that's overkill.
Yeah, well, there is the actual rule states that there's you give 5 seconds. So if nothing happens in those 5 seconds, you're quite entitled to come back and give the free. That is in rule. Now it's probably stretched out a small bit. It might go to 6 or 7 seconds. But generally, as you say, if the advantage is there and you miss your shot or it gets blocked down or whatever, you are entitled to come back and get the free once it's within that 5 seconds. So,
but it's overkill, isn't it? Like, surely, it's slowing up the game, it's killing the game. Like, if a guy gets back on the front foot and he hasn't been disadvantaged by the initial attempt at a foul, play away and just let that be that.
Yeah, but I say if
I'm not criticizing the refs, by the way.
Oh no, and I'm not here either. Yeah.
But just on that, because one of the rules that they're trialing at the minute, and they trialed it over the weekend with the football, is they've changed the attacking mark, that if the ball comes in, ball has to come in outside the 45, you collect it inside the 21, that you basically have the mark no matter what.
Yeah,
it's a mad one, because, like, to me, listen, don't get me wrong, it's great from maybe from a spectator point of view and a forward's point of view. But a defender has no hope, like, in that scenario, and he's to probably overcommit to try and stop the initial mark.
Exactly, yeah, no, because I was actually listening to Eamon Fitzmaurice there yesterday, because I wasn't too sure of all the rule changes that they're looking at, and I think it was in Mullingar the weekend they had a match, and one of those is the advance mark. So the rule is still kick it from outside the 45, but now, as you said, if it lands inside the 20, you don't have to claim your mark. You keep playing. And even no matter what happens, you have the mark in the back. As I think you have it in the back pocket, so it's there. So
yeah, I think it's a bit mad. It's very, very forward centric now. Like, don't get listen. I'm probably looking at that from a defender's point of view, but, like, to me, forwards get enough of advantage.
I remember you up here defending. Games. I remember you defending up here.
Defending was a loose term, John.
Yeah.
John, a question here from River Power. Who's your top 3 refs, past and present?
Jesus, I'll go past first. Anyway, I'd be very, very. Barry Kelly was a big help to me when I was coming along, and I got very friendly with Barry and still am. So a lot of my success, I'll put it down that he was a big help in getting me there. Always very, very good to pick up the phone, and he'd ring you and he'd have a chat with you. When Brian Gavin was refereeing, obviously I probably picked up, people would say, too much of him by letting the game develop a bit. So they definitely be 2 from the past anyway. 2 from the past. I won't get into the present because I think all the lads are there and they're all doing good jobs. So I'll stay with that.
How much resistance did you ever feel to letting the game flow from administrators, from assessors? Like, because, and I mean, most famously, the Limerick Clare Munster final in 2023, it seemed, you swallowed the whistle, and we were all loving it that you swallowed the whistle. But do you meet resistance from above you?
Yeah, well, I never got into the car heading down from Ockram to any of those games with the intention of, I didn't say to myself, right, I'm not going to blow anything today. Games develop in different ways, and like, as you get more experience, and I found this very, very good to me, that the players get to know you, they get to know the way you're going to referee a game, and they will react to the way you're refereeing it. And most of the games that I did referee, I probably did let the play develop a good bit, but I never found myself getting in too much hassle with on the playing side of things. Now, obviously, we can go back to the Munster final, and I left Thurles that day, and sure, I sailed up the road until I'd seen the Sunday game and Sunday night, and we did miss a couple of incidents in extra time. Like, so I'm blaming Tony Kelly for putting the ball over the bar that day and getting to extra time. Other than that, now it might went grand. So,
but just on that, just talk to us about that, John. Like, your performance that day in the Munster final was lauded by nearly everyone from what I could see, but you were, like, subsequently, I would say, punished for your performance in that game, which is a bit mad.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't say punish for the full performance. Like we go out, like we have decisions to make in matches, and especially the key game decisions, which are scores, penalties, red cards. Like they're the ones we need to get right. If we're not getting them ones right, you're going to be in trouble at games, whether that be club level or inter-county level, no matter what grade it is. So if you can get those right, you'll be a long way to getting a good game into you. And like we did miss a couple of things in extra time, hold my hands up, and that's just the way that it panned out that day. But I said we unfortunately you try to see everything, but sometimes you can't see everything. So
are certain teams more difficult to referee than others? And are there any
No.
players that you found? No. Are there any players who you kind of stand out as? To be fair, he was a bit of crack on the pitch. I'm not talking about giving decisions or anything like that, but like players that you found quite easy to deal with or a bit of crack.
Well, the majority at the top level now, the majority of our players they're all sound fellas now. I wouldn't know much of them off the pitch. Like you'd meet one or two at the game or whatever, but on the pitch, the majority of them are very sound. They'll accept your decision 99% of the time. They might just ask a question why or this and whatever, but generally the most of them will just accept your decision and keep going. Like so they're not bad at all. Now, in fairness, not bad at all.
You don't have any like signed Kilkenny jerseys hung up on the wall like other referees or anything like that.
Well, I did get a couple of jerseys after last year's All-Ireland final. That's so I'll say that to you. They were sent to me. So,
what was that like as an honour? Going like, would you be nervous going out for an All-Ireland final? I mean, your job is totally different to a player's, but like, if you do have nerves, what would they relate to?
Well, as I said, when that call came through last year, obviously I thought I had gotten away from me with the previous year, but obviously it came through, and sure I was thrilled. I got the call about probably 10 days beforehand, so the first couple of days were just the phone never stopped, and just enjoying it and the razzmatazz that goes around it. And then from the Monday beforehand, you have to focus on the game. And the one thing I've never suffered nerves, thank God. Even when I was playing, no, I played a bit of inter-county with Wicklow hurlers, but I never suffered with nerves, thank God. Now on the day itself, like you're put up, they look after you there in Castleknock Hotel for the weekend. So we were up there Saturday and enjoyed the evening with the family and umpires and families and all. And then Sunday just went for a walk around. But probably when I got to the stadium, same thing, probably just from about 10 minutes from the time after we met Larry McCarthy, shook the hands with him till the game started, that probably 10 minutes, just trying to fill that time. But once the ball was thrown in, as I always said, it was like doing a senior hurling championship match here at home, Wicklow. Just you have to referee the game, and it didn't bother a thing. Thank God.
You, Michael, do you want to jump in? Yeah,
John, if your career had finished without refereing an All-Ireland final, I'd imagine that would have been. I can't imagine how big of a regret that would have been.
It would have been hard, and I won't lie to you, because in the winter of 2022, I had a good chat with the wife. I knew it was my last year, so I said, right. I said, we'll go back. We'll do what I think I need to do, get myself back up, the fitness back up. Obviously, you can only referee the games that you're given. So, had a couple of league games done, and I said, right then, picked on the championship panel again, and then all you can do, same thing, is just keep focused, and I say referee the game and hope the game. Like, you need a bit of luck on your side as well. I won't lie about that. Like, you do need luck if you can pick up the decisions and stuff like that. So that kept me going and kept the head right, like, so and thankfully it panned out. But it would have been a big regret now if I hadn't got the one last year now. So it finished off things nicely, but I said I wouldn't have minded going back for another crack at this year. But
was that a hard winter in 22, John?
It was.
Yeah, because I've not been smarter to me and many more, and Shane and many more would have thought that, like, even on the back of the Munster final, that you should have got that year's All-Ireland final, and I'll be straight with you. I'm surprised it worked out the way it did last year, because often that doesn't happen, and you would end up being the best referee to have never refereed an All-Ireland final, which would be terrible. But imagine that 22 was like tough, I'd say.
Oh yeah, but as I said, like, and my umpires here have to take massive credit for this, because like the four lads that finished up with me now, I had a couple more down along the years, but the four lads that I finished up with last year, like I obviously had a chat with them last winter two-year, whatever, 22 as well. And we made a conscious decision ourselves that we just heads down, we keep working away. Obviously, if we got the games we got and they worked out well, we just keep going. So I said they were a big help to me as well. So the 4 lads, I can't ever thank them enough, for kept me going as well.
John, I'm just trying to remember an article that Dermot Crowe did, which maybe not long after the All-Ireland last year, and in terms of like where you took the whistle afterwards, it was a bit of a poignant one after the All-Ireland final, if you wouldn't mind telling us that.
Yeah, so in 2016, I got the minor final, but 3 weeks before the minor final, my mother passed away. She was diagnosed with cancer in about July of 2016, and September, she probably about 5-6 weeks later, it went rapidly on her. So 5-6 weeks later, she passed away. And then we buried Mammy on the Saturday, and then on the Monday morning, I got the phone call to do the minor final, which was obviously a massive honour back then. So when I was coming out of Croke Park out of Dublin on the Monday morning following that, I famously had an orange whistle that I used to get a lot of hassle over, and I said I'd bring that whistle up to. She's buried. There's no graveyard actually in Ockram, so the graveyard is up in McCredden, about 2 or 3 miles outside the village. So I left that whistle there in 2016, and I said to her that day, I'd love to see anyone beside her. So that's what I did. Last year. Yeah.
It just must have been great to sort of, circle that off.
Oh, it was. And sure, like the father's still very active around the place, and anytime I pop up to the graveyard, the 2 whistles are exactly where I left them, and I had them just loose there, but he put them in a little container up there, so they're still up there, and still 2 whistles still there.
That's really nice. So, and just in terms of now, like, so you're actively refereed, I presume, in Wicklow there all the time, are you?
Yeah, I am. I haven't. There's not enough nights in the week at the minute, So,
hey, brave man refereeing in Wicklow, Shane. I can tell you that.
Well, you're not here anymore, so it's not too bad.
Hey, listen, a lot of the worst stories don't involve me now, John, to be fair.
No, you're not. I'm only having to crack with you, Michael. No,
Hey, come here. Just on that, you would have had a few interesting incidents down through the years, by all accounts, in Wicklow.
Oh yeah, like I was involved in one myself. I think it was 2015. I was doing an intermediate football match up in Hollywood, and it was a great game, went grand until a spectator from one of the sides decided that he didn't like anything I done in the match, and so he left a head on me going off the pitch. It was the only time, actually, in fairness, that I have experienced something like that. Now, it shook me. I won't lie to you, it shook me. Yeah. So
there's a picture, John, of you going around. The blood is actually just dripping down your nose. Actually, I don't
know
who got it.
Yeah, I'm not sure who. I don't know who got it as well. Yeah, no, I think that was 2015. Anyway, I said, like, it shook me that night, but sure, we got over it and we kept going.
John, do you ever feel like, and I made this suggestion before when there was one of these more recent incidents at I think it was a club game, but like referees wearing body cams, is this something you've ever considered or something that the GA should do? But if someone comes in and attacks you and said, well, you did this to sort of instigate it or whatever, do you see any merit to it? No,
I don't think so. No, like with the amount of GA games played, and I know it always gets highlighted, but with the amount of games that are played between juvenile and adult, and the amount of incidents that are, like, it is still very, very small. When you compare it like. So, and I know you'll always hear about the bad ones, but generally, and I'm only speaking from myself down here in Wicklow. I haven't suffered. That's probably only incident. You'll always have people on sidelines or up in the crowd, and they'll disagree. Like, no matter when you blow a whistle in a match, 50% of the people are not going to agree with it. That's just human nature, So, you just go out and referee the game as you see in front of you, whether people in the crowd or on the pitch or the sideline think you're right or wrong. You referee as you see it in front of you. That's all you can do.
And isn't it human nature that if one team keeps going on your case, that after a while you could find yourself giving a decision or two against them because they just won't leave you alone?
Never happens.
Yeah, right, John. Yeah, right. There's a few comments in here, a few questions in for you here. Genuine question for John from Traumspieler. Are refs even looking at lads taking 4 steps anymore? It's the first thing I always do when watching, and did as a player when taking possession. Do refs count to 4?
Physically, you cannot keep counting steps. Like, you have enough to do. I know the rule is there for 4, but if you ever look at a game, 9 times out of 10 when a player is blown for steps, it's out in the open, because you can see the distance that he's covered. Like, physically impossible to keep counting 4 steps in your head when you're looking at what's especially in the hurling end of things. Like, you know, you're writing down 60 to 65 scores in your book as well. You're keeping an eye on time. You're keeping an eye on everything. So there's a lot to take in there. A lot to take in.
John, why do referees only allow defenders to have 2 or 3 less steps than forwards?
Doesn't happen, does it?
I tell you something. If a defender got a ball, it took 6 steps. If a forward got a ball, it took 10. Play on, John. Play on.
I wouldn't know.
Do you support the idea here? John S is asking. Do you support the idea of 2 referees and taking the burden off the ref? Now, can I first say, can you just answer that in light of intercounty only? Because at club level, it's not really doable. But maybe intercounty.
Intercounty now, because I see the question up here in front of me. Like, I still wouldn't support 2 referees, because you look at any, like, there's 12 referees now in the championship panel this year again, and you look at any of those 12 referees, each of those referees has a different style of refereeing. So if you have one referee on one side of the field and the other on the other side, I know rules are there to be adhered to and applied, but he might let a little jersey tug where he thinks the player might break the tackle later on. So you could have 2 different styles of refereeing on the same pitch, which to me wouldn't work. It wouldn't work at all.
But it works in other sports like basketball and American football, for example.
And they're a lot easier to referee.
Oh, geez, I don't know about that. There's mayhem in those sports. Yeah.
The only thing I'd say is, Shano, is with GAA, there's so many things open to interpretation. Like what John is saying there is you do, it's not in the rule book, but you get like an extra maybe 2, 3, potentially 4 steps if a lad half tugs you and the referee gives them a chance to break away, shall we say. Do you know what I mean? Whereas
and then goes back for the free anyway.
Yeah, well, maybe
the advantage rule, you can't beat it, Shane.
But John, let's just say if you had Brian Gavin in the other half of the field, would you be happy if it was someone of a similar mind, shall we say, or that refereed a similar way to you?
I still wouldn't be, no matter who it was, I still wouldn't be in support of 2 referees. I'd be very against it, actually. I'd be very against the 2 referees. Yeah.
Could you give us examples of like when you've very effectively as a referee been able to communicate with your umpires or your sideline officials or whatever, using, you know, just what you're hearing in your ear?
A specific example?
Well, like, is there anything you can think of? Like, is it very useful being able to communicate? Like, has it ever allowed you to be like, okay, I think there could have been a foul there, but you're quickly hearing in your ear, no, it isn't, play on, and on you go. Like, is it very useful?
It is useful, but like at the end of the day, the referee is there to referee the game, and whatever he sees generally go. Now, one thing I always told the lads, because especially in Croke Park and Thurles, when you're on Hawkeye, the referee is on open mic, so no matter when you're talking, all other officials can hear you. At some of the other grounds, it's a push the button talk, so you're not on open mic and you can't be heard the whole time. So one of my things was always that, especially around the sideline, if there's a little bit of a ruck down the ground and a player comes up with the ball, and generally you can't see that because of that many legs and bodies. But I just always say to lads, if that's come off the ground illegally, just give me a quick shout and we'll get the decision right. But the rest of it in around the field yourself, any of the aggressive stuff that you're closer to, I just always leave that to the referee to look after, like, you know. So
what if you had an open mic, you know, where just like rugby, where all the viewers at home can hear what you're saying? How would you feel about that?
I woun't mind it, but it's as I said, it's something that referees would have to get used to. Just maybe in the language, I'm not saying we're using bad language, but just the way you communicate and the way you speak for yourself, like, you know. So it would take a lot of work, I think. It's like the rugby lads and all are doing it the whole time. They're well used to it, like, you know. So, but it would help, as I say, because you'll always hear, and even on commentary matches that people, they wouldn't be fully aware of all the rules, as well, and then when it's coming out like that, at least if the people at home or the spectators could hear what the referee is giving a free for, it might take some of the pressure off them. I know sometimes, like, one of my big things, and one of the reasons I got into refereeing was because I like to be able to communicate with the players. 9 times out of 10, they know what the foul is for, like, but they'll always ask you. And if you can just pass back a bit of information, they mightn't agree with you, but they generally would just grant thanks, and on they go. So.
Did you feel like you had good communication with players, John, during games? Like, it never seemed like there was a row, or some referees don't even like being asked a question during a game. Whereas I think players, if you explain it to them, listen, you were pulling his jersey or you were doing whatever, I think they're generally quite receptive to that. But I've asked, a question in a game, and like quite courteously, because you're no point in asking a question aggressively, you know what I mean? But and you just told, you just kind of waved away or something like that, and I kind of find it a bit disingenuous, to be honest with you. Did you always have like generally have good dealings with players?
No, I do, and that's just maybe my personality. But as I always said, if someone asks you a question in everyday life, generally an answer is what's expected of someone. Like, so you should be able. If someone asks you a question, no matter whether you're walking down the street or on the football pitch or a hurling pitch, it's not that hard to give back an answer and just let them know what's going on. So that's why I always dealt with anyway, and it worked well for me, I think.
In terms of the standard of hurling in Wicklow, can you talk to us about that? Because I know Bray won Leinster Intermediate a couple of years ago in a club match. They battered the team I'm over a couple of weeks ago. That was a tough day at the office. But can you just talk to us about Wicklow in general and what you were seeing on the ground in terms of quality?
Yeah, well, we have at the minute the problem is numbers as well. Like, we've only 6 teams in our senior hurling championship at the minute. Like, and like Bray are after doing, like Bray have been exceptional over the last number of years in Wicklow, and they've brought on a lot. They've brought on a lot of publicity to the county. Like they won the Leinster. They were beating crowds from Limerick by a point in the semi-final. Monaleen, and they went on to win it. Now they got the 5 in a row now. I know some of the lads have went off travelling this year, as far as I'm aware. Now whether they'll be back or not, but they probably still would be that little step above the rest of the teams. Now they won't like me saying that, but that's generally where we are. Like if Carnew and Glenealy there as well, Kiltegan are making progress. St. Pat's are back up to senior this year, and I think Greystones are senior. But what 3 or 4 of the clubs this year have done. They've obviously followed Bray's lead. Like Bray have been, and it's handy for Bray because they're on the border there, and they have been playing adult club league in Dublin for many, many years, and it's definitely stood to them, no more so than the Carlow teams that are playing in Kilkenny and Naas playing in Kilkenny. But Greystones, Kilcool, who are intermediate, and St. Pat's from Wicklow Town have also all joined the Dublin leagues this year, so they're playing a bit up there as well. So hopefully by getting more games, the whole standard will improve down here. Like, but it's a decent standard down here. We won the Nicky record last year, and stayed up this year. There was a management change halfway through the season, and the lads stayed up Nicky record again this year. So hopefully build on that again next year.
Yeah, I think it's great the way the Wicklow teams are playing in Dublin. And, funny, like an awful lot of Dublin teams have to go down to Bray because they've got great facilities. And I think it's 4 pitches there, and use their facilities to train. Like, I would have done a lot over the years with Coola, and you'd see Crokes, Bowden, loads of other teams.
Exactly. Sure, I've often been up there. Like if we could be doing a club match up there, and you see, especially the Coola, and you see the Kilmacud jerseys, Coola jerseys, and it's the facilities are second to none up there. Like you have the 4 full-size grass pitches, the full-size Astro. Like I was up there Saturday at a Gaelic from others and others blitz, and the place is hopping up there again. Like, so it's never ending up there with what's going on up there.
Okay, well, Catnap is asking one last question here. Ask John how he would have dealt with the persistent off-the-ball pulling, dragging and holding of Connolly on Saturday. Obviously, against Verney's Offaly, he was no stranger to it himself. Lions gave Cleary a yellow for similar in the Munster final.
Yeah, well, the one thing, and you try stamp it out as early as you can, like, because, and I'm not going to name teams here, but generally in most games, like, a back will generally, for the first couple of minutes, he will probably have a hold of a corner forward or a full forward, just to stop him getting that extra yard or 2 ahead of him. Because now at a club game, that's hard to see, but generally you'd just say to your umpires beforehand, and you'd go through the goalkeeper or whatever, say, lads, just keep an eye on it. Tell your corner back there that he's been, for once or twice, he's been mentioned there for holding. They said if he's holding again, there will be a free given again him. And then, like, a persistent holding does become a yellow card. So you try and nip that in the bud early in the game, and generally, if it works for you and you can nail it, it generally does disappear over. So,
yeah, Michael, any final questions? John's been good with his time, but we have to let you go eventually, John.
Yeah, just a quick one, John. If you could make any rule change, what would it be? Particularly for hurling, maybe focusing on hurling. Is there anything you think? Where you just, like, something you've seen where you think, if we just did this, it would work a lot smoother, maybe?
Well, we have a square ball rule in football and hurling, and they're both different. I wouldn't mind seeing the square ball in the hurling go the same route as the football. It'd take that little bit of, is he in the square, is he not in the square? At least if you have the once the ball is played, then the forward can go into the square. You know, you're not arguing over was he in the square, was he not in the square. Like, you know, maybe a more defined hand pass rule. I don't know how that would work now or how we'd get to there, but and maybe even across all the codes, maybe take the time away from the referee and let someone else look after that, because there's a lot of stuff going on that you have to worry about as well. Like, you know, so.
Yeah, because effectively you've got 30 players on the pitch, and a huge amount of them are looking to cheat at any one particular time, John. They're pulling a jersey.
That's a strong word.
Yeah, well, you know what I mean. Like, not that I'd be prone to strong words in here, Verney, would I?
No, John, a quick one for you. I'm sure there are a couple of rules that you know that the general public are probably unaware of. Anything in particular, like when a ball hits a flag in a game, what happens?
Well, when a ball hits a flag, it's out of play, and no matter which flag it hits, it's a line ball. So if it hits the corner flag, it's still a line ball. Because you'd even be, because people say, oh, it didn't go out, it hit the flag, but once it hits a sideline flag, the ball is out of play. The ball is out of play.
Okay.
Yeah,
any other ones like that, like they're quirky enough kind of rules.
Yeah, the one I actually think it was Brendan Cummins was talking about the other day. The puck out now. The puck out is one. It's completely different. In camogie, you're allowed, once the ball goes wide, you don't have to let your players outside the 20-meter line. You can puck out a wide ball in camogie straight away. That is in rule. That rule is not in hurling. So your defenders have to be outside the 20-meter line before the puck out was allowed in hurling. So what happens is, it probably looks that the referees are letting it out that bit quicker, but because you're not writing down a score and the lads are probably out, you'd probably just give the whistle that bit quicker. But it's you have to wait till the players get outside the 20-meter line for a puck out in hurling.
And John, another one that you can do in hurling, if I'm right, is, let's say someone, you know, I'm running in or whatever, somebody pucks the ball across to me or hand passes, I can just slap it into the net, can't I?
Yep, you can.
If someone hand passes it to me, so I could you could hand pass the ball the whole way up the pitch and then someone slap it into the net.
Yep.
And what's the deal then with actually solo kicking a sliotar? Because, you know, sometimes the hurley's pulled off you and you're like, well, why wouldn't you let me advance with a solo here?
If the hurley's pulled off you, it's a foul. It's free to you.
Not always. Sometimes you into contact and it just gets dislodged. But why can't you solo along? Like, what's wrong with that?
Well, the ball has to be played. You take your 4 steps or 5 steps, whatever. The ball has to be played off the hurley or off the ground. So if you take your 4 steps and you solo the ball, it's not being played off the hurley or the ground. So you're over carrying the ball.
It's very skillful, though.
But
it is.
John, that was changed though, wasn't it? Like, that wasn't that. When was that changed? Like, you used to be able to do that, weren't you? Either that or they weren't pulling for it.
Well, I've in my own, I've actually never probably seen it in a game. I think there was one there, but in games I have done, I've never seen anyone solo on the ball. But as the rule book does state, to the best of my knowledge, that the ball has to be played off the ground or the hurley after your 4 steps. So.
Yeah, one other one, John. So a lot of the time you see a player solo along with the ball, they then drop it onto the ground and flick it back up to themselves to reset the catches. And sometimes you'd see a player run along and nearly throw it over a would-be tackler and then flick it back up to themselves as well. Now, I know you can do, like, for example, a drop shot. So that would actually, that's a legal way to maybe drop it on the ground. But are you allowed to run along, drop it on the floor and flick it back up to yourself?
No, because you're actually, that's a throw. So you're throwing the ball.
So people do it all the time and get away with it constantly.
Yeah, I was doing a tournament game in down in Gorey on Saturday, and Mount Leinster were playing, and the goalkeeper for Mount Leinster actually done it, and I just said to him, I said, if you need to take the ball and you've lots of space in front of you, I said, drop it onto let it hit your hurl going to the ground, and then pick it up, because then you're not throwing it in front of you, you're dropping it onto your hurl, let it onto the ground, and then pick it up and go again. You know,
that's the Henry Shefflin rule, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't know.
You know right well, John.
Hey, John, who do you think's, just to finish off, who do you think's going to win the All Ireland this year?
Oh, sure, like you're obviously looking at Limerick again, but depending on how, I think I'm right on this, depending on how the quarterfinals go now on Saturday, and I think Wexford have a massive chance against Clare. You're obviously looking at Cork, and just, I'm only going on the way Dublin played in the Leinster final. You'd probably see Cork coming out of that. But I think if Clare win and Cork win, I think it's Cork, Limerick, and Kilkenny Clare again, yeah. So
Yeah.
if Cork got a run at Limerick in Croke Park in the semi-final, I'd give them a big chance. But then you're saying like Limerick and Croke Park are a different animal as well. So, but I think Cork are not gone yet either. But I'd probably still fancy Limerick, but I think Cork are not gone. Now, obviously, the rest of the teams didn't have a chance as well, but that's where I'd be going.
Okay. Well, look, John, really appreciate you joining us. That was very insightful and good old fun as well. So thanks very much.
Oh, no, and apologies, and I'll be getting lots of texts now about always reminding that there's a little cover over the camera.
You get every bit of abuse you get for that now, you deserve it, John, to be fair.
All right, then.
Thanks, John.
Thanks for
Appreciate
lads.
that.
God bless. Take care.
Good man.
Okay, that was very insightful. Really good.
Yeah, see, you always pick up, it's a different, we've played all our lives, or we've been on the sideline. It's always good to get the perspective of the man in the middle as well.
I'm not sure. Oh, sorry, it's stalled there for a second. Mike, just in terms of the minor All-Ireland then, so both games went to extra time, which is, I don't know, is it a shock anymore when you see all these games going to extra time? But Kilkenny, they eventually came out on top against Clare. That was 223 to 220. And then Tipperary beat Galway. That was 124 to 26. Both games had red cards, controversially or whatever, but geez, incredibly tight and incredibly exciting.
Yeah, great drama. Jesus, two belters of games. Probably the two teams that I marginally fancied going into the weekend, but both had to do it the hard way. Like Kilkenny were in bother in extra time by all accounts as well, and
they were 8 down in normal time in the first half.
Yeah, managed to turn around. The red card probably did help, to be honest with you. Don't know if you saw the footage of going around of the referee going in talking to the umpires. I thought it was really interesting. He actually never looked the umpires in the face. It was like he was just standing beside them, listening to what they were saying, and one of them was doing like a gesture and symbol of what the red card was for, which I just thought was interesting.
Isn't that normally the way they do it, though? They go in just so that they can keep an eye on whether anything else happens among the players.
Yeah, one of the first things we were taught in teaching school back in the day is you always have your back to the wall so you can see everything in front of you. So you'd never go in and face them or anything like that. But I just thought he wasn't even like he could be looking out the pitch and the umpires could be facing him. He was just like he was listening to them kind of just with one ear kind of in like this kind of. But that decision obviously had a big play in the game as well. But it's been a while. When was Tipperary obviously won the minor in 22? Probably hadn't won one in a while before then. Kilkenny haven't won a minor since 14. They probably need this as well. Just given how things haven't gone particularly good at underage in recent years, but that plans to be a cracker of a game. Don't know if you saw that picture of the Tipperary player. I can't think of the name now, but the hang time in the air. It's absolutely outrageous. He looks like he's about 6 foot off the ground. It's a great picture. I think Declan Cleary or Declan Daly might have been the photographer's name. Outrageous. The skill and athleticism on show in the two games was savage.
Yeah, it was brilliant. And yeah, Tip had only won minor All-Irelands in 2012, 2016, 2022. Obviously, we're not winning that many lately. Yeah, Christ on, Mike. Talk about exaggerating.
I couldn't remember the one before 22. I thought it was going to have to go back to Brendan Maher, to be honest with you. I didn't remember. Oh, he beat Dublin in a replay in John McGrath's minor year, was it?
Yeah, did Mark McCarthy score the goal that day?
And for Brian McGrath and the two brothers won the same day in 16 as well, didn't they?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was Alan Tynan was on that team as well. To be fair to Galway at the weekend, like what a performance, Kenneth Burke's side. When they're down to a man for 50 minutes, Rhys O'Connor got sent off. And look, the footage I saw, it was not a red card. And it went all the way to extra time. And I think it was Killian Minogue who knocked over the winner. Really good winner at the end of the game. But it was just to and fro in both ways. And geez, if James Woodlock pulls off a second All-Ireland minor title in 3 seasons, that would be some going.
Savage, yeah, in fairness. Yeah, he's done it. You'd have to say he's done a fairly masterful job there, and I don't know what way it's going to work. Whether he's going to stay with the minors or he's going to graduate to the 20s, and whether Cummins is going to graduate somewhere else, or I don't know. Like it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out over the next while. But Woodlock is, within those couple of years, the minors has assembled a fair out CV, and another minor will be huge.
Yeah, and then on the other side of it, Jake Mullen scored 13 points for Kilkenny against Clare, 4 of those from play. The apple didn't fall far from the tree there. Ollie O'Donovan.
The Rake, isn't that what they call him, I think? The
Is
Rake,
it?
yeah.
Jake the Rake.
Yeah.
Ollie O'Donovan and Conor Houlihan, they scored a goal apiece as well. And Clare on their side, Harry Doherty scored 7, Conor Ralph 1-2, Matthew Corbett 5, Paul Rogers, who was shown the line a little bit later on, he scored 1-1. Plenty of fine hurlers there as well on that Clare team, and obviously on that Kilkenny team.
Yeah, that's going to be a cracking final as well, because like I know Kilkenny won the under 20 in 2022, but there wasn't. I always kind of go back to, lads of my own vintage back in the day, and you were looking at, let's say, that Kilkenny minor team that had, let's say, Richie Power and Cha and these boys, and looked like it was kind of star-laden. I'm even thinking of the Galway team that won in, was it 2003 with John Lee and a few more, and you're thinking there's a couple of big stars here, and you're looking at the minor final this year and you're thinking there's a couple of potentially real big stars over the coming years for both counties. So yeah, should be a cracker of the game. And obviously the fact that the two neighbours and great rivals and all the great history that comes with it as well are playing each other only adds more intrigue to it.
Do you know in the football over the weekend, the way Mayo didn't manage to see it out against Dublin, finished 17 each, and like Kieran Kilkenny caught a brilliant kick out, fair enough, but if it was the other way around, number one, Mayo should have been all the way out the field. Number two, he should have been clotheslined to the ground instantly, choke slammed, followed by a people's elbow. What would Dublin have done? And go back to that All Ireland final.
They would have kicked the ball away before the keeper got to even take it, I'd say.
They'd have done everything in their mind, and I just thought total lack of cuteness. And Mayo deserved to have to play the preliminary quarter final because they didn't give Dublin what Dublin would have given them.
I saw Eamon Mulligan tweeting about it as well. Like, would you have retreated and let them have the ball and just plant your 15 men behind the 45/50 yard line?
Yeah, and I'd be fouling them constantly, and I wouldn't care about a black card. I'd be just saying, so what? This is what they did to us in All Ireland.
Yeah, if you finished with 12, like, as I said, you're always canvassing for the rule for the black card to be that, it's a scoreable free or scoreable penalty or whatever, no matter where it is. So they could have fouled and fouled and fouled. Now listen, the only thing I'd say about that is that I thought it was an unbelievable score from start to finish. The catch, the hang time and the catch. Now I have to say, and I know you're always giving out about hand pass points, but I actually thought Costello did really well to score after falling, because, and I don't know, like, I don't think I'd be able to execute it that well, but hand passing, falling over on your weaker hand is actually not an easy thing to do as well. So the fact that they've been, I just got constantly used to hand passing with my good hand the whole time. I never really worked on the other hand. So like, to be able to actually do that under pressure when you had a goal at your mercy before that, I thought that was really well taken. And obviously there was a bit of penetration there from Jack McCaffrey, I think twice in the move as well, to help kind of break a line too. But it was a brilliant score and it was great to see it. But from a Mayo point of view, they could have really put a spanner in the works for Dublin season. Like, that would have ripped up the script that everybody would have had, and it would have left Dublin potentially playing Kerry, I think, in a quarter final. Whereas now they're top and they've earned an extra week. And yeah, maybe it's just that lack of killer edge or that lack of maybe ruthlessness from Mayo, because there are other teams that definitely would have, you'd imagine they would have made it very difficult for the opposition team to get past midfield.
Dublin would have absolutely hauled them down onto the ground, and rightly so. Abuse the rules until they change them. That's what I'd be saying in terms of this. You know how much I hate this rule.
And they could have ended the game with 11 men with no repercussions whatsoever for the next day. Get your results and get out the door and earn your extra week off. Yeah,
so it means they're Mayo are in a preliminary quarter final. They're going to be against Derry, Lowther against Cork, Tyrone, Roscommon, Galway, Monaghan. And by the way, Aidan O'Shea, 90th appearance in the championship. Fair play to him. Like, I remember when he first came on the scene in 2009, you had the Twin Towers down in Kerry, which was Donaghy and Tommy Walsh. Who were the two big men up front for Mayo? One of them being Aidan O'Shea.
Two big men.
They were going with the Twin Tower approach as well.
That wasn't when they had McGarrity in full forward, was it?
It was Barry Moran and Aidan O'Shea.
That was Barry. That was brief enough now, was it? Barry Moran played sweeper in a quarter final, I think, as well.
Against Donegal around 2014 or something.
In around that, I think. Yeah, 13. They beat them in 13. Yeah.
Yeah, but I just remember that was brief enough. Like, Aidan O'Shea was very young back then, but he was still great at winning ball. And geez, I thought he had a very good game here. But just I'll go through just the group stages and stuff from the weekend. So Armagh, they topped their group against Galway. We'll come to that game in a little while. Derry are through after just about edging out Westmeath. That was 2-7 to 9. Dublin, we've already talked about that. They had a 17 points apiece draw with Mayo, and it was a brilliant game. Cavan against Roscommon. So Roscommon, they're through. So maybe they've timed their winning run, and we'll see how they get on the next day against Tyrone. And Tyrone, they were just about pipped for top spot by Donegal. Donegal hammered Clare out the gate, 223 to 5. And Tyrone just had a little bit too much cuteness for Cork. They won by 118 to 17 points. Cork are also through there. Very tight group, 4 apiece for the 3 teams at the top, and then Clare on 0. And then Kerry, they're through, 100% record there, 221 to 110 against Louth, who are second, and they knew they were through anyway. Monaghan, then they had a 3 points win over Meath, who you'd have to say are very disappointing. They finished their group pointless in total. And Colin O'Rourke has been asked afterwards about his future there, or sorry, more so the future of Meath. And he was saying that the biggest problem we have is that we haven't the core of very experienced players available to us, and we're building with a lot of young players. Today, we probably showed a bit of inexperience early on, and then when they really had to fight for it, they went for it. The big thing is to try and develop these players further, and the only way we'll do that is patience and keeping them together. But, I'm not saying he's wrong per se, but isn't that kind of the thing that every manager says when things aren't going well, we're building for the future?
Yeah, I was at this game, Shano, actually, and I was there for the interviews after. Yeah, he's basically looking for another 3 years. He's looking to do a minimum of 5 years. It's kind of it's hard to know kind of what to think. He's very kind of adamant about the points he's making, and he obviously knows Meath football probably a hell of a lot better than me or you do. But it's kind of hard to know. Has he earned the time? Like, has he earned another 3 years? Or is it just taken as a given that that this is where Meath are, and that they have to build a new team completely, and there's going to be loads of new faces, and all these lads need to be blooded? Or, is there more talent there than he's saying? He kind of said the last day that they don't have a Conor Callahan or a David Clifford. I kind of said it to you a couple of weeks ago that, if I was a member of the squad, I don't know how well I'd take the way me or my squad has been referred to like that. But I saw Anthony Miles tweeting last night that he just thought O'Rourke was being quite blasé about it, and that he's kind of not in tune with like what the results have been. The results haven't been good this year. I think they've won. Am I right in saying they've won three games from 12 between league and championship? They stayed up in Division 2 of the league. Obviously, he said that they'd be in contention in Division 2 next year, and the year after they'd be rubbing shoulders with the big boys and they'd be competitive. But I
go through what Anthony Miles had to say. Former Meath player, for people who are unaware. Colin O'Rourke must know something the rest of us don't, to be so blasé about his tenure with Meath. Can he honestly think that things have improved? He says he has faith in the squad, but yet chops and changes them continuously. He bemoans the fact that Meath don't have players like the Cliffords or the Conor Callahans, neither do 3/4 of the teams out there, but yet blames their lack of experience, their fight, their skill sets, and even the whole Meath Senior Football Championship in clubs. But another 3 years, it will be all different. I look forward to hearing how or so. Will that be a safely guarded secret that the rest of us don't deserve to hear, as we should be ignored anyway? So Anthony has gone in pretty hard there, and obviously he loves Meath football and he wants the best for it. So that suggests real frustration.
They had themselves in a decent position in that game. Then all of a sudden, I think it was Cottle Hickey got a goal and Matthew Costello added a free, and they were 1-4-5 up after 26 minutes, and then they were outscored 111-3 from there until the hour mark. And just from a Monaghan point of view, like, Monaghan haven't won a game since the 27th of January. Like, it's amazing. They were going for, they'd 8 losses and a draw in their last 9 games before yesterday. So this is a huge result for them.
Were they impressive at all?
They were impressive during that half an hour spell, but and they were 116 to 1-7 up, and then they just don't seem to make things too easy for themselves. Meath kicked the next 7 points, and it was 116 to 14 deep in injury time until Conor McManus put over a free to kind of at the last kick of the game to make it a 3-point game. Funnily enough, Shane, Monaghan were actually in a position earlier in the game have actually gotten a home preliminary quarter final. They were actually doing better on score difference than Louth were. And I know they obviously drew it Louth. They finished, I think, maybe -3 more than Louth did, but they had themselves in a position there at one stage to actually be in a preliminary quarter final. But I'd say they're happy just to get a win. Now they picked up a couple of injuries along the way as well. Joel Wilson had to come off twice with a blood injury. He should be okay for the next day. But O'Toole, the centre back, looked very bad. Looked like a broken arm coming off. Looked in serious distress. And saw Darren Hughes there yesterday. And they already have a fair injury list already. They can ill afford to be down anybody else. But they're in the last 12. They're playing Galway, who they obviously famously beat in that last Super 8s game in Salthill to earn a semi-final place and put Galway in against Dublin in that semi-final. Was it 18? I think it was. I think it was 18. Yeah. You'd still have Galway's strong favourites going into that game, but now that Monaghan have not a bit of a monkey off their back, maybe they might get a bit of momentum out. But he also said as well, he kind of hailed how exceptional they were. He said there's been no dissent. There's been no one dropping off the panel. No one's gone away to the States. Nothing like that. Like, that is, in fairness down to Monaghan, they do eke the most out of themselves. I remember chatting to Dick Clerkin about this before. There's just a thing there within the squad where lads generally just don't opt out. Once they're in until the end of their days. And Vinnie Corey was saying, like, the lads outside the 26, none of them have opted off. And he said they actually let them back to the clubs after the Kerry game, which was an unmitigated disaster, scored 2 points in the first half. And he said some of them came back refreshed, including Barry McBennett, who came on as a blood sub for 4 minutes early on the game, kicked a point, came on after about half an hour then for Joel Wilson and kicked another 1-1, including a belter of a goal. So they'll fancy their chances against Galway, but you'd still be leaning towards Galway in that game.
Joe, I was watching, I mean, like probably yourself at the moment, well, you're not that big into soccer, but Euro 2024 is on, and it's just blanket coverage. And to be fair, it's been pretty decent stuff so far. I was, watching the Galway Armagh game. Galway went 5 points ahead in the third quarter, and I was like, I flicked back over to the other game, and I turned back over, and Armagh were ahead, and I'm like, what's after happening here? Tiernan Kelly had scored a goal. And I just thought the way Galway failed to manage that game at the end, and Armagh obviously got the equaliser, which means that they're straight through to the All-Ireland quarterfinals. I was just like Mayo. I was like, they failed to manage the situation. And a team that's trying to, manage their injury situation, because Galway have been ruined by injuries, all too often in recent times. And they have Sean Kelly back on the pitch, and they have Shane Walsh back on the pitch. And I was like, this is one game. You just absolutely do not need to have this game coming up next week. And Armagh at the other side, they celebrated as if they were after winning the All-Ireland, but I kind of don't blame them. That extra week is huge.
Oh, it is massive, yeah. It's not a week off per se, but it's the chances of it just reduces the chances of you picking up little knocks and gives you a chance to refresh a small bit. Like, I'm kind of a bit torn about these the new All-Ireland stages, right? So in one sense, I kind of didn't pay too much attention to the first 2 rounds. So, I did. I paid attention to the results and various subplots. But every game, to be fair, I was focused on the last round then, where you think everything is on the line in the last round, and it was, and every team had something to play for. But all the other games do have a massive significance when it comes to that final round. Do you know what I mean? Like, the score difference between Louth and Monaghan, different results here and there. Even last year, like, Kerry were beating out the gap by Mayo in the first round. They bounced back, ended up finishing top. I think it was on score difference after, when 3 teams finished on 4. So it mightn't have the excitement maybe until the last round, but you can't say that the games don't mean anything. In fairness, they all do have a knock-on effect. It's just the fact, and that's because they have a knock-on effect because you're only eliminating 4 teams, so there's no dead rubbers. Every game does have something to play for, but the idea of playing so many games to get rid of 4 teams is very convoluted as well, obviously.
Yeah, I do think that the quality of the entertainment is the real issue at the back of all of this. And Eamon Fitzmaurice, actually, he was talking about this on an RTE panel yesterday, and I was taking down some of the notes of what he was talking about and the things that they'd trialed in those sandbox games over the weekend, where there was...
Sandbox is a great one, isn't it?
Yeah,
I've never heard it referred to as that before.
I've heard that sort of stuff referred to, that term used in, like... I would say stuff like computer programming and stuff like that, that you would sort of clone an environment, let's say a programming setup that's developed to do X, Y, or Z, and you create a duplicate one, so you can go in there and sandbox and try and tweak stuff without knowing that you're not going to ruin the initial program. So I'd have heard it in that context before. But anyway, he was talking about stuff like that he felt went well. This was with Westmeath, Offaly, Longford, Kildare players, and I think some others. So the 2-point arc in play, he thought that was quite good. He said there was more shots, but obviously further distance out, more of them were dropping short, which meant a little bit of chaos. And I'd imagine some of those must have led to the new advanced mark idea. Now, I like the idea of the advanced mark, but I don't necessarily like the idea of the double hit, like you were saying earlier, where you get basically the free no matter what happens, and you also turn and take the man.
It's a massive carrot, isn't it? Jesus, it's such a big carrot. It's so favourable to the forward. Will it make the game more exciting? Yeah, probably will. But geez, yeah, I think it's a bit much for executing what could potentially be a basic enough skill.
Traumspieler says the last time Verney heard of a sandbox, he was playing with his Tonka truck in it, I'd say.
More than likely, yeah. Now that when you mentioned that about the programming thing, something's kind of ringing a bell. I would have heard it maybe, all right, but most of that stuff would usually fly over my head now.
Yeah, another one was the solo and go. So if you're awarded a free, you can just play on. Apparently that worked well, and it's designed to stop a foul, which is just there to delay. So, anything that stops that kind of thing, I'm all for. He was saying that Nigel Dunn, the Offaly forward, he was talking in terms of like the way it was working and being able to keep 3 players up top, or that you had to keep 3 players up top. He said that worked well because he could use his energy as an inside forward rather than just chasing back. I'm paraphrasing to some degree. He may not have put it that way.
Yeah, an inside forward is an inside forward. Do you know what I mean? Like, you're not kind of, we always said probably one of the worst parts of David Clifford's game was his tackling and maybe tracking back. David Clifford will go to town with some of these rules if they're brought in. Like, that advanced mark is made for him. Think of how many, whatever about him getting 1 shot, getting 2 shots at. That would be the real killer from a defensive point of view. Just say if Clifford does make a big catch and the keeper pulls off an outrageous save, or the Conor Gormley block. Like, imagine you go back to that, 2003 on Ireland final, and Conor Gormley makes a block and it's still a free in or still a mark going in. Like, you'd be fairly demoralised now.
Yeah, and I think as well they mentioned that with the whole idea of 3 O's being kept up top, that it keeps a traditional shape to the game, which is good. And just watching it again yesterday at times, and look, when football's played well, I absolutely love it. But seeing him go back to the goalie and switch the ball over to the other side, and the opposition basically just turns their back on what's happening and gets back inside their own 45. Yeah, the whole goalkeeper thing, that has to be stamped out, going back to your keeper, without doubt. Fair enough, if they come inside the other half, no problem there. But the idea of just being able to take the air out of the game every time, just doing that, oh God.
I think Fitzmaurice had mooted the possibility, and they are going to do it at some stage. Like, they need to get, and some of the people on the committee are some of the great minds within Gaelic football, but we probably need the likes of a Stephen Poacher and a few more to come in and look at these rules in that type of sandbox scenario and say, okay, how can I negate this? Because that's how teams will look at it. They'll say, okay, how can I make this rule totally redundant? And you'll only get that in real high pressurized scenarios, and with coaches who are really thinking, how are we going to win a game and make sure that this rule doesn't affect us at all? So that'll be interesting. That's probably might even be the 2 levels ahead of where they are at the minute.
Did you see Ronald Koeman and the footage of him picking his nose and eating his snots yesterday? Dutch manager.
I didn't actually, Shaylo. No, I'm kind of happy I didn't, to be honest with you. Did something like that not happen with
Yogi
German manager? Yeah.
Well, he was like sticking the hand every which way and then having a little sniff off the winnings.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah, that was a different level of it altogether. Final thing then. Actually, we'll just go to the Tailteann scores in a minute, but did you happen to watch the end of the US Open and the golf last night?
Just watched it this morning. Oh my God. Was it, Am I right in saying he had successfully putted the previous 496 of those puts? Oh my God.
Inside 3 foot, yeah.
Yeah, that's a killer. He obviously the footage of him behind the scenes after is just heartbreaking stuff, and he left the course fairly quick after. Have to say,
He was on his plane before Bryson DeChambeau had finished his press conference.
go away, right? Okay. Have to say, I'd have a decent interest in the golf. DeChambeau is coming across a hell of a lot more likable now than he was maybe 18 months ago, or that I have to say too. And he's no longer this kind of he was kind of nearly ruining golf the way they were saying, and just how far he was driving and all this kind of crack. His short game is miles better than it used to be, like way better. That's probably what kept him alive yesterday.
And there was some footage at one stage. He changed the head of his driver just before he started the last round.
That's mad, right?
Yeah. And like apparently that's something that you just very rarely do in the first place. But he just changed it before the last round. And also, he had hit, I don't know at what stage it was. Maybe he was on like 15th or 16th, but it was the closing stages of the back nine. And they said, well, and so far he's only hit 4 out of 11 fairways today. So it wasn't working perfectly. And he still found a way to win it. Like that chip from the bunker to set him up for the winning putt. Spectacular. And I don't know if you saw it, but later that night then, it was getting dark over there in Pinehurst. One of the commentators, one of the analysts,
brilliant.
He replicated it, or he was trying to replicate it, and midway through doing it, DeChambeau showed up. So check that out on the OurGame.
He tried to he replicated it before DeChambeau came, and he kind of half shanked it. And DeChambeau basically took the mic, and your man took it again, and he nearly sunk it out of the bunker. It was amazing. But the only thing I will say, Shane, like, did DeChambeau win it, or did McIlroy lose it? Realistically,
they were both trying to lose it. They were
but McIlroy, you know what I mean. DeChambeau hung in. McIlroy, unfortunately,
he nailed it.
Yeah, he blew it. And like it was very like the Masters in 2011, was it? I think, where he did disaster down the home straight as well. Listen, I don't know. It's an absolute heartbreaker for him.
Yeah, actually, I put it on my own X page at Shane Saint rather than the OurGame one, but check it out. It's absolutely unbelievable. Then finally, the Tailteann Cup, we kind of mentioned it earlier, that Laois beat Kildare by 2-11 to 12 points, and Glenn Ryan has stepped down, and I suppose that's not really a surprise, is it?
No, I thought he was very honest in his interview after. He just said, I thought I would be able to improve this squad and get them to a certain level, and in the paraphrase, he kind of said, that hasn't happened, and it's probably time for me to step off and for somebody else to step up. So who's going to be the next manager would be very interesting. I'd say Brian Flanagan would be high up there, and Davy Burke, who's currently in charge of Roscommon, would be high up there as well, I'd imagine too.
Yeah, look, realistically, he had to go, didn't he? I mean, you don't like saying it really, but there was just no way around it. It was just going disastrously in Kildare, and I don't know, they just need to have some sort of a root and branch review of what's going on there, because they're not getting the best. I'm not saying they have the best talent around there, but my God, they have far more talent than what they're producing.
Yeah, well, since 2018, they've won 2 All-Ireland under-20 All-Irelands, and they've been in another final. Like, there's plenty of talent there.
We do have to point out as well that it doesn't mean that they're star talent, because like in both codes, in a few years there, any player who's at senior level, they weren't able to appear at the under-20 level.
Yeah, of course. I was at the first game against Longford in the Tailteann Cup, and I kind of thought maybe it was a bit of a statement kind of win, but like they had to be getting to minimum a Tailteann Cup final. So they went down to the second tier football for the first time really in their history, they say. And then they weren't even able to make the last 4, and they weren't beaten by one of the favourites. They weren't beaten by, let's say, a Down or a Sligo. They were beaten by Laois, who now obviously have a great chance at redemption. They're back in Croke Park, the place they conceded 8 goals last year, and they're playing Ulster opposition again, but it's not Down. And you'd fancy, they think they have a decent shot at getting to a final.
Yeah, fair play to Antrim. They came from 8 points to 2 behind on Fermanagh. And it was Cathal Hines who scored the goal in the second half. So they're through to the semi-final of the Tailteann Cup. Also, Sligo, they fairly put Limerick away. That was 220-9. And Down, unsurprisingly, beaten Wicklow. I'd imagine everyone would agree with that. That was 118-12. So Down against Sligo, Antrim against Laois. couple of tasty semi-finals there.
Yeah,
That should be on Saturday rather than Sunday.
Yeah, they definitely should be. Tony McEntee came out and made a fairly strong play very early in the day as well, didn't he? He kind of got himself out there ahead of what he probably knew was coming. But it didn't go through with that Central Council meeting last night. And by all accounts, I think the fixtures are made now for 1:15 and 3:15 on Saturday. By all accounts, that's what seems to be going around. Haven't got anything official on that yet. But that's a disaster for all concerned in Wexford. And to be honest with you, Shane, it's a bit of a disaster for hurling in general as well. Like they're just really bad times. Like it's very, very easy. People have things going on weekends. You're trying to get stuff done that you don't have time to get done during the week. They're woeful times. Like they're smack bang in the middle of it.
We've 5 games left in the hurling championship, assuming that there are no replays. 5 games, and even like it was 7 up until Saturday there. We played the 2 of them at the exact same time, one on GAA Go, the other not on anywhere. Like it beggars belief. Like people will say, oh, you should be playing till September, or you should be doing this, that, or the other. But even when we have the games, we're not giving them maximum exposure. So, it's really frustrating.
Yeah, we're definitely not helping ourselves. And obviously, Dara Burns is fairly heavily in with Wexford GAA as well, given that his daughter is involved in Wexford GAA and married to Dermot O'Keefe as well. So I'm sure he would have been trying to get that over the line for people who he's meeting on a regular basis as well, but it didn't happen. Like I wonder, should Wexford go a bit further with this realistically? Like I don't know. How many people are going to be at the game from a Wexford point of view? Like genuinely, I must try and collate it over the next couple of days and chat to various people. How many volunteers will actually be involved in what's going on, what is county wide, and then obviously the fact that like my own club are going down, several other clubs going down from around the country. There'll be just a hell of a lot of people playing their own games while 2 really, really big games are going on as well. That's not right either.
Yeah, and I mean now that they're sort of fixed, Cork against Dublin and Wexford against Clare. It's only really Dublin where you're wondering, like, are they going to be able to turn it around after how they performed in that Leinster final? Because, I mean, obviously you'll say typical of me because I've been involved in GAA in Dublin for so long and hurling specifically, but like they are the ones who have to turn it around, and they did not show anything of their A side in that final against Kilkenny. So is there a danger for Cork of coming into this assuming, because I think a lot of people are just assuming, look, Dublin are going to lose no matter what.
They are at the minute, to be honest with you. If Dublin produce something like what they did at the end of the round robin stages, they'd have a right good game. But you just wonder, will there be much scarring from that Leinster final? I'm sure they'd built up to it and were expecting a big performance. Didn't come at all. And like it's a bit of a salvage mission. Like whatever about winning the game, they're looking to finish their season with some sort of a performance. Like at this stage last year, and I know it was tight at different stages in the first half, but they went down. They conceded a fair score to Clare in the quarter final last year as well. So yeah, it was a bit of a salvage mission for Dublin. We'll get into it a bit more maybe later in the week. Whereas the second game, like I think that second game is seriously intriguing now, I have to say. And you already hear people, and even John Keenan and others talking about the possibility of a shock. If you're talking about, you wouldn't be 100% sure what type of Clare team is going to show up as well, and potential scarring from a Munster final, and the first Munster final where they haven't produced really in the last 3 times. So that's going to be a really interesting game too.
Okay, and then a final thing, go to the week. So what are you looking at here?
Yeah, my go of the week anyway in football, because I was at the game, was Barry McBennett. He ended up at 1-2 for Monaghan off the bench, and realistically, he was probably the difference in that game. In the hurling, I know they were beaten, but geez, Dan Burke has had some month. Oh my God, he has had an absolutely outrageous month. I was chatting to him after the McDonough final, and he just said, like, I'm absolutely knackered, but we just stay going. And by geez, he didn't show any signs of fatigue last Saturday. I thought he was brilliant again. So I'll probably give it to Dan Burke and Barry McBennett in football.
Yeah, I give it to Shane Barrett. I think he's on course for an All-Star with Cork, assuming that they get to Croke Park this year. And on the football side, I thought Cormac Costello was excellent, so I'd probably give it to him. Any final comments there now? No, I think that's pretty much it there for the show. We'll be back again on Thursday. loads more to talk about, and we'll probably get a couple of more guests. It's been hey, question here: is Dan Burke half a tip man?
I think so. Not 100% sure.
He looked at the transfer.
Definitely not. But with a second name spelled that way, that would be a real kind of J.K. Bracken's job, wouldn't it? Shane Burke is spelled the same, yeah.
Oh yeah, like even lads that I grew up with that were called Burke, it was Bourke.
Yeah. I have a feeling he is, but that ship is saying no shit.
Well, look, Dan, this is give us a bit of a come and get me plea, and we will make it happen. Okay.
I thought you'd be the one giving the come get me plea, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Okay. Look, that's it for the show. We'll be back again on Thursday. Thanks very much, Michael.
Thanks, Jenna.